November 3, 1997 at 6:45 a.m., the front doors of Crescent Hill High School in Springdale, Missouri opened like any other Monday. Principal Eleanor Walsh stood at the entrance, greeting students with the same rehearsed smile she'd perfected over 15 years of administration. The autumn air carried the scent of damp leaves and the promise of an ordinary school day. By 4 p.m., 15-year-old freshman Lindsay Harrow was gone, last seen heading to detention for being late to gym class. She never came out. Detective Marcus Reeves rubbed his eyes as he reviewed the security footage for the 7th time. The grainy black and white image showed Lindsay walking down the corridor toward room 212, her blonde ponytail swinging as she adjusted the strap of her backpack. She glanced at her watch, 3:02 p.m. The video continued for 3 more minutes before cutting to static. "Tell me again about this outage," Reeves said, turning to the school's IT technician, a nervous man who kept adjusting his glasses. "Like I said, scheduled maintenance. Every first Monday of the month, 3:05 to 3:25. Been that way for years." The technician shrugged. "Never been a problem before." School records showed Lindsay had signed in for detention at 3:04 p.m. in room 212, supervised by a substitute named Mrs. Camden. But when questioned later, Camden insisted Lindsay never arrived. No other students had detention that day. "I was there the entire time," Camden repeated, her voice wavering. "I graded papers until 4 o'clock. The door never opened." She was a retired teacher who occasionally substituted. Nothing in her background raised flags. "Then how did her name get in the logbook?" Reeves asked, sliding the detention log across the table. Camden peered at the signature, her finger hovering over the page. That's not my handwriting. I never saw this girl." Security cameras in the hallway showed Lindsay walking in the direction of room 212, but the feed cut out at 3:05 due to the scheduled maintenance outage. No cameras covered the stairwell near the custodial wing, which shared the same corridor. Who else would have access to that logbook? Reeves asked Principal Walsh the next morning. She frowned, the lines around her mouth deepening. "Faculty, administration, and custodial staff, I suppose. It's not kept locked." The janitor on duty that day, Frank Heller, 58, had worked at the school for over 20 years. Quiet. Reclusive. Known for odd habits, walking the halls after hours and never making eye contact. Students had nicknamed him Ghost because he seemed to appear and disappear without warning, moving silently despite his large frame. "Don't know nothing about no logbook," Heller mumbled when questioned. His eyes darted around the maintenance office, never meeting Reeves' gaze. "Don't know nothing about the girl neither. He told police he left early for a dentist appointment. But his time card showed no early checkout." And a staff member, English teacher Marianne Cooper, remembered seeing him in the boiler room hallway after 3:30, sweating and pale. "He looked sick," Cooper told Reeves. "I asked if he was all right, but he just brushed past me. Didn't say a word. I remember thinking it was strange because his shift wasn't supposed to end for another hour." The next day, Lindsay's backpack was found behind a stack of chairs in the unused theater storage room, a locked space only accessible with a custodial master key. Her books were still inside. Her phone was gone. That room hadn't been opened in over 6 months, according to district logs. "Someone's lying," Reeves told his partner, Detective Sarah Chen, as they examined the storage room. "It smelled of dust and forgotten props. Either the logs are wrong, or someone with a key went in there." Chen knelt by the spot where the backpack had been found. "There's no dust on the floor here," she noted. "Someone swept this specific area clean." Reeves interviewed Lindsay's friends, hoping for leads. Jessica Winters, Lindsay's best friend since elementary school, sat across from him in the school counselor's office, twisting a friendship bracelet around her wrist. She was excited about the winter formal, Jessica said, her voice barely above a whisper. She'd just been asked by Tyler Mason. She wouldn't have run away. Did she ever mention anyone making her uncomfortable? A teacher? Maybe a staff member? Jessica hesitated, glancing toward the door as if afraid someone might be listening. There was, she said she felt like someone was watching her. In the hallways. When she'd stay late for art club. Did she say who? No. Just that it was creepy. Like, she'd feel eyes on her, but when she turned around, no one was there. Jessica looked down. She started taking different routes between classes. I thought she was being paranoid. When questioned again, Heller became defensive. I ain't done nothing wrong, he snapped, his voice rising. Been here 20 years. Never had no trouble. Then you won't mind if we take a look at your home, Reeves suggested. Just to rule you out. Heller's face flushed. You got no right. No right at all. He stood abruptly, knocking over his chair. I quit. Right now. I quit. He resigned the following week and moved out of state. Police searched his small rental house and van but found nothing conclusive. A few strands of blonde hair were discovered in his van, but DNA testing was inconclusive, the samples were too degraded. He was never charged. Lindsay's parents, David and Karen Harrow, refused to give up hope. They organized searches, distributed flyers, and appeared on local news programs. Karen, once vibrant and quick to laugh, grew hollow-eyed and silent. David threw himself into the search, taking leave from his accounting job to pursue leads the police had abandoned. Someone knows something, he told reporters on the one-year anniversary of Lindsay's disappearance. Someone saw something that day. Please, if you're out there, come forward. No one did. The case grew cold. Detective Reeves was reassigned. Chen took another position in a different department. Principal Walsh retired. Life at Crescent Hill resumed its normal rhythm, though students now traveled in groups and avoided the East Wing where Room 212 was located. In 2003, a new lead emerged when a former student, now in college, contacted police. Tyler Mason, the boy who had asked Lindsay to the winter formal, claimed he'd seen something unusual the day she disappeared. I didn't think it was important at the time, he explained to the cold case detective who interviewed him. But I saw Mr. Heller talking to Lindsay in the hallway during lunch. It looked intense. She seemed upset. The detective tracked down other students who'd been present that day. One recalled seeing Lindsay arguing with someone near her locker, possibly another student, though they couldn't be certain. Another remembered seeing her writing something in a notebook during history class, then tearing out the page and slipping it into her pocket. These new details prompted a fresh look at the case, but no breakthrough came. Heller, living in Arizona under his brother's name, refused all requests for interviews. In 2005, after the school underwent a remodeling project, construction workers discovered a narrow concrete tunnel behind the maintenance hallway, sealed off since the 1970s. The passage had originally connected the main building to an old boiler house that had been demolished decades earlier. Curious about the discovery, one worker ventured inside with a flashlight. What he found sent a chill through the community: a discarded janitor's uniform, an empty soda can from the 90s, and a school-issued phone, later confirmed to be Lindsay's. The phone had been factory reset. The serial number was removed. But inside the back panel, scratched into the plastic, were the words, "He has another key." Detective Reeves, now gray-haired and approaching retirement, returned to the case one last time. He stood in the dusty tunnel, trying to piece together what might have happened 8 years earlier. The tunnel wasn't on any of the school blueprints we reviewed, he told David Harrow, who had never stopped searching for his daughter. Heller would have known about it, though. Former maintenance workers confirm it was common knowledge among custodial staff. Heller was located in Arizona but refused to speak to police. His health had deteriorated: emphysema, diabetes, heart problems. His neighbors described him as a recluse who rarely left his small apartment. Did you ever find out what "he has another key" meant? David asked, his voice hoarse from years of grief. Reeves shook his head. We checked every key in the school's inventory. All master keys were accounted for. He paused. But keys can be duplicated. They reviewed the case again. Re-interviewed everyone still available. Searched school records for staff or students who might have had some connection to both Lindsay and Heller. Nothing emerged. The message on the phone remained cryptic. If Lindsay had known who "he" was, she'd taken that knowledge with her. Heller died in 2013 of natural causes. No deathbed confession. No evidence tying him directly to Lindsay's disappearance. The case remained officially open, but active investigation had ceased. Her body has never been found. Frank Heller was buried in a small cemetery outside Phoenix. 3 months after his funeral, a package arrived at the Springdale Police Department addressed to Detective Reeves. Inside was a small leather-bound book, a diary belonging to Lindsay Harrow. The final entry, dated October 31, 1997, 3 days before her disappearance, contained a disturbing observation. Saw the janitor again today, watching me from the stairwell. He pretended to be cleaning, but I know better. He's always there. I told Mrs. Walsh last week, but she said I was imagining things. Maybe I am. But I don't think so. He has keys to every room. Every door. Jessica thinks I'm paranoid, but something isn't right about him. Tomorrow I'm going to ask Dad if I can transfer to Westside High instead. The diary answered some questions but raised others. No one could explain how Heller had obtained it, or why he'd kept it all those years, only to have it delivered after his death. Had guilt finally caught up with him? Or was there another explanation? In a strange twist, the investigation into the diary's origin led to a startling discovery. The package hadn't been sent by Heller at all. Postal records traced it to Marianne Cooper, the English teacher who'd seen Heller in the hallway the day Lindsay vanished. Cooper had moved to Arizona 5 years after the disappearance, settling in the same small town where Heller lived. When confronted, Cooper broke down. I found the diary in my classroom, she admitted. The day after she disappeared. It had fallen behind a bookshelf. I should have turned it in, I know that now. But I read it, and I got scared. Scared of what? Reeves asked. There were entries about me, Cooper whispered. Things I'd said to her in class. Private conversations. She thought I was too hard on her, that I was singling her out. I was afraid it would look like I had a motive. She took a shaking breath. So I kept it. I told myself I was protecting my career. But all these years, the guilt. And Heller? Did you know him in Arizona? I saw him once. At a grocery store. He didn't recognize me, his mind was going by then. I followed him home, watched his place for weeks. I thought maybe he'd lead me to her somehow. Cooper was charged with obstruction of justice and evidence tampering, but the case against her was weak. She'd hidden evidence, yes, but there was nothing connecting her directly to Lindsay's disappearance. She served 6 months probation and moved away again, her career in education finished. The mystery deepened in 2019 when renovations to the school's East Wing uncovered a hidden compartment in room 212, the detention room where Lindsay was last seen. Inside was a student ID card belonging to Jessica Winters, Lindsay's best friend. The card had expired in 1997 and showed signs of having been deliberately placed in the wall cavity. Jessica, now living in Colorado with a family of her own, was shocked when contacted about the discovery. I lost that ID the week before Lindsay disappeared, she insisted. I had no idea it was in that room. Each year, room 212 sits empty on November 3rd. Students say the chair closest to the door always feels cold, no matter how high the heat is set. Some claim to hear the scratch of pen on paper when no one is there. And the storage room? Still locked. But janitors say sometimes, the light is on. In 2022, as Crescent Hill High prepared to celebrate its centennial, David Harrow made one final plea. Now in his 70s, with Karen having passed away from cancer 5 years earlier, he stood before news cameras and asked again for someone, anyone, to come forward with information about his daughter. "Before I die," he said, his voice breaking, "I just want to bring her home." A week later, an anonymous letter arrived at the police station. Inside was a single key, old, rusted, but still intact. A note accompanied it. "There were 2 of us who knew about the tunnel. Only one of us is still alive. Check the old boiler house foundation. I'm sorry it took so long. He made me promise." Police excavated the area where the boiler house had once stood. Under crumbling concrete and decades of soil, they found fabric fragments consistent with a school uniform from the late 1990s. DNA testing is ongoing. Detective Reeves, now fully retired, still visits the school every November 3rd. He sits in room 212, in the chair that's always cold, and reviews his notes. The key found in the anonymous letter doesn't match any lock in the current school building. Locksmiths determined it was for a padlock manufactured in the 1970s, the same era when the tunnel was sealed off. Someone had kept that key for a reason. The question that haunts investigators: who was he in Lindsay's message? Was it Heller? Or someone else with access to the school? And who was the second person who knew about the tunnel? The case remains officially unsolved. But every November 3rd, a fresh bouquet of flowers appears on the school steps before dawn. Security cameras never capture who leaves them. Some mysteries aren't meant to be solved, at least not in this lifetime. But the truth has a way of emerging, one piece at a time, even after decades of silence. Those who knew Lindsay Harrow best believe that someday, the final piece will fall into place. Until then, her story serves as a reminder that some shadows never fully disappear, and some secrets refuse to stay buried. In a forgotten filing cabinet in the basement of the Springdale Police Department, Lindsay's case remains open. A yellow post-it note, faded with age but still legible, is stuck to the inside cover. Remember the key. There's always another key.